My name is Michael Gubbins. I'll be moderating this session. And I'll say straight away, what this session isn't is another of those endless conferences and forums we've all been on predicting how the future might be in the new normal, because I think we've had enough of those, haven't we? I think we've been doing those for a long time. And this is distribution. And distribution, these are the entrepreneurs, the publishers. These are the people that take the risks to turn the great films into something that audiences actually see. And I think one of the differences that will come across very strongly in this panel, as it always does with distributors, is taking risks for changing realities is pretty much what you do. That's what's on the business card. Things change all of the time, and we've seen digital cinema, we've seen DVD, we've seen, I remember even VHS, you remember those days, but things change all of the time. And the reality is you have to be flexible, you have to adapt in order to survive as a business. Because this isn't the end where there's a ton of public money bailing you out. This is the bit where you take risks and you put your backing, your personal backing, your business backing behind the products. You connect them to those audiences. But having said all of that, the pandemic has unquestionably created a set of quite different circumstances, quite difficult circumstances, some of which have accelerated already pre-existing issues, as we will hear, the shift towards more online viewing, for example. And what we will hear from this panel is there's been a lot of diversity, even before the pandemic, in how that's handled. So some of the people you're going to be hearing from today had already invested in becoming on-demand services in their own right, or building relationships with on-demand services, but they were building a kind of ecosystem with lots of different elements. During the pandemic, one of those elements, at least for a period of time, was ripped away in theatrical. And tactics were necessary during that time that we're going to hear from this panel. And what we're looking at here is how some of those tactics, which were created for the very rarefied issue of pandemic and cinema closures, how some of those may actually help drive strategic thinking for the next stages of development of the individual businesses and for the sector and industry more widely. What we've got with the panel is, I think we've got north, south, east, and west covered, which is good. And obviously, during the pandemic, the good news is all women panels are now a thing. Who knew? I don't remember that in 2019. But this is another great step forward. So what we've got is a panel, though, with tons of experience of lots of different aspects of the film. The diversity of the panel is that there's lots and lots of different experiences that make up what is today's distributor. There just isn't an easy, nice, out-of-the-bottle model anymore. There's going to be lots of different variations that are about local conditions and are about changing realities with audiences. So we're going to start. I'll just introduce the panel first. We have Christina Pelikani from Greece, Feel Good Entertainment. We're going to hear from her in a moment. Greece, obviously a very interesting country in terms of both the always there challenges of trying to make things happen in Greece and perhaps a lower level of take-up of VOD, a lower level of VOD services. And then we have Esther Coleman from the Benelux behemoth Cinear, which I think you will all know, but again, someone who I think has lots of other experiences too, lots of other strings to her bow, as we like to say. Then we have Elżbieta Dluha from the Czech Republic. And Aerofilm, I think, is one of those bodies, those organizations that I think has been at the forefront of a lot of these changes. A VOD player for quite a long time. It's fundamental to its business, is how that fits in. And that's also true of Emily Samuelsson from Triart in Sweden, which is, again, one of those extremely innovative companies that has integrated VOD very much into its model. So let's kick off. What we're going to do here, if any of you have tried this is some new technology. What we're going to do is we're going to pick up ideas and themes that have gone through. So I hope you're going to leave here with lots of practical suggestions. So they've invented this thing called a notebook and a pen. And I advise you during this period to pick some stuff up, pick up ideas. And what we'll do is we'll go through the panel, we'll get lots of that input, and then we'll come to you to share your experiences, to ask questions. And hopefully at the end of this, we're all going to go away with tons of ideas, and we'll start the future. So, Christina, we can start with you.
Should I take one with me? Wait. I can speak. No, you can hear me? Ah, you can hear me? Yeah. Okay. I shouldn't sing then. Right. Hello, everybody. I'm not used to the glasses, so it's like, it's weird in a way. Let me see. No. Oh, yes, no. Yours. Oh,
No.
yes. Yes. So after I've been bullied by some specific person in this room, I had to cut down my presentation to 13 pages.
From 150.
From 22. So, okay. So I'm Cristina Pellecani. I'm representing Feel Good Entertainment. Feel Good is this one. Yes. Is I'm doing everything wrong. You show me everything, and for some reason I'm doing everything wrong. Okay. So Feel Good is the #1 Greek distributor at the moment. We hope will be in the future as well. So we represent 2 big studios, Disney and Sony. Disney includes, as you all may know, Pixar, Marvel, Lucas, 20th Century Searchlight, Sony, as I said before, and we also acquire films, independent films from the market, so we also have independent content in our slate. Why is it changing? Something's happening. I need to use my computer for some reason. It's spoiling the presentation. Feel Good. Let me see. Okay. We are also into film production, so we also do Greek productions. We create new content, but I can say more about this. Home entertainment, as long as it lives. And we are also doing copyright management and safeguarding rights for films that are being shown outside theatrical venues. So let's have a quick view of the Greek film market. What we need to, it's the last 5 years, what we need to see here, actually the important thing is the change in the ticket admissions between 2019 and 2020. Of course, it's obvious that something happened because from 10 million admissions, we fall into 3 million. And what else? It's important here that the VAT on admissions also changed from 24 went to 13. I'm trying to be quick, you know. Okay. So, what happened in the entertainment industry during COVID in Greece? Well, even in Greece, prior to COVID, there were shown some, how's it called? Some positive signs of financial stability. But when COVID came, that changed completely. So we had to realize that we need to do something, especially in our industry, because the drop was more than 70%. We had cinema closures and then reopenings. We had 2 waves from March 2020 to June 2020, and the second wave, which was in October 2020 until May 2020, where the open-air cinemas opened. And then in July, the hardtop cinemas is actually something that I realized today, that we use it only in Greece. Ioanna, please confirm that. Okay, so since we have the open-air cinemas, it's something that we have in Greece since, I don't know, the creation of cinemas. The cinemas that are open during winter and fall, we call them hardtop because they have hardtop. So, you know, they're closed venues. So just I realized in the morning that some of you don't understand what is the hardtop or you don't use it. No, sorry. Okay, we're not going to talk about the measures because it doesn't really matter. I think it happens in Greece what happens everywhere. We wear masks, there is a limited capacity and stuff like that. No, let's go to the interesting things. So, it was a difficult period, especially for the distributors, because cinemas were closed, we didn't know what to do with our films. Okay, we tried to do some TV and digital sales, but that wasn't enough for a whole year, and we didn't have an unlimited library to try and sell everywhere. So we had to come up with an innovative idea, something that we weren't sure, of course, that it was going to be successful or not. Actually, it wasn't successful, and this is, I'm giving you the end of the story, but at least it was something that we tried. It was a period of a trial and error. So it's something that we tried, and we feel that really helped paving a new, how's it called? A new way to deal with situations that are not very familiar. I don't know if you get what I mean. So, anyway, we decided to create something that we called virtual cinema. It's not like we invented the stone, but the idea here was to help the exhibitors benefit for a new release pattern. Feel Good is a company that really supports the exhibition. We are a theatrical company. We love theaters. We want to have our films in theaters. We buy films that the main goal is to be released theatrically and not to release them only or straight to platforms or DVD. So we try to find a way to combine the two patterns, to combine the theatrical and the streaming. And am I boring them?
Not at all.
Okay. Okay. So we had this film. It's called All Pretty. How's it called in All Pretty Horses? I couldn't remember the English title. It's from a Greek director. His name is Michalis Konstantatos. It's a film that naturally would be in cinemas because it's a film that went to festivals. It went to Sarajevo, to Shanghai, to Thessaloniki Film Festival, and in various festivals around the world. So it's a film addressing a more niche, more sophisticated audience. So the natural place to show a film like that is the theaters. Unfortunately, when we had the film, we had also the close down of the cinemas. So we said, okay, we were really lucky because we collaborate with a producer who was really open to new ideas and to new proposals. And we said, okay, let's not keep the film in our library and let's release it now with the pattern, as I said, the virtual cinema. What we did, we collaborated with 2 cinema venues in Athens and the ticketing platform that is called Viva. So everyone who wanted to buy a ticket for this film had to go to that platform and buy a virtual seat. So it was like going to watch the film in the cinema, but from their home. So for 2 weeks, we had 2 cinemas, virtual seats, and 50-50 share. So we gave to the cinema owners, to the exhibitors, we gave them share. So that way we combine the theatrical and the new trend of the streaming platforms. And as I said, the results weren't satisfactory, but it was a symbolic art just to enhance the theatrical going. And we also had a deal with these 2 cinemas to release the film theatrical when the cinemas were going to reopen. So what the film gained from that is that it had an promotion early in advance. People started talking about the film. There was a buzz around it, even though it wasn't very easy to change the habit of the audience to go and buy actually a virtual seat and not an actual ticket to go to the cinema to watch the film. And it started a word of mouth, and it worked in a way like a sneak peek of the film. So when the film is going to be in the cinemas in a couple of months, because at the moment the market is really cluttered because everybody is releasing their films, so it wasn't a good timing for releasing a small title, there would be an awareness already about the film. Another thing that we did, and this is something that not only Feel Good did, but it was a collaboration between all the Greek distributors, the Greek producers, the Greek actors, the Greek producers. Did I say producers again? No? Anyway, it's called Back to the Cinema campaign. That was in the first wave of the pandemic, of the quarantine. So what we tried to do was to keep the cinema going habit alive. And we created this campaign, which was really interesting. I can show you, wait. Okay, that's here. It's in Greek, but you get the point.
Τους θεατές.
Okay, you didn't get what's happening here.
What did he say? What did he say at the end?
He said, "What are you waiting for? Why don't you start driving?" And he said, "I'm waiting for the audience to come." So, yes. And we did that all for free, and we promoted it again for free. It was a huge success of this campaign. It was an initiative that the people really liked it, and somehow we feel that we all helped a little bit in taking the audience back to the cinemas in a way, at least. I think we did it, because last summer, only open-air cinemas were open, and this year was, again, open-air cinemas open, but some hardtops as well. And the admissions were really, really good, really good. For specific titles, of course, but it was good. We didn't expect to be that good. Feel Good had a film, a religious one, and we realized that there is an audience for these titles as well. It managed to bring to an audience, a different audience inside the cinemas, an audience that maybe had never been to the cinemas before. So, like, you need to find some ways to do, where is it? To to find your audience. I'm sorry, I'm not used to these things. Okay. So the morale of all these is that we need to be alert and agile in order to adapt in this new situation, into the situations that are coming and we are not aware of anymore, I'm thinking. So, yeah, that's from me.
Thank you. Okay, so I mean, a very clear tactic to work with the cinemas very closely. You create a virtual cinema. You have a very literal interpretation of online, where they even have their seats, the virtual seat, to fit in there as well. You said it didn't work, and I understand. So you're saying that in terms of what you might have expected from the virtual cinema element, but did you find that when the film was eventually released in cinemas,
not yet,
that's still to come?
Yes.
So is there optimism that the momentum that was built during the virtual cinema period might actually lead to success, longer-term success for that film?
Yes, it's not a title that is going to be a huge success in any case, even if it had been released in a normal situation. But we feel that the audience that is going to like the film and is going to watch the film is aware of the film now. Yes.
Because in a sense, there's differences. So there's a premium VOD element to this, because a lot of that thinking about VOD release before the theatrical release is that it's possible to build online momentum, which can help lead to theatrical releases, which is kind of interesting.
Yes, that wasn't our goal, to be honest.
No,
our
of course.
goal was to help cinemas, exhibitors, which were closed at the moment. So in a way to show them that actually streaming, it's not our enemy, could be our ally in a way, if we find ways to collaborate.
Yeah, it's a kind of accidental experiment in premium VOD. It's not what you were aiming for. But there is a different element in this, which is the cinema brand is something you worked with. You're still promoting that idea that just because it's happening online, you have still very much tried to bring together the idea of online is not something separate, but integrated. It's integrated into your strategy, is that cinema, the brand of cinema, and the online are not two things in opposition. They're potentially things which could actually interact and work.
We can't ignore the online and the strength of the online right now. Well, then we should live in another planet, I don't know. So yes, in a way, we have to find ways to... We cannot ignore it, as I said, and we need to find ways to collaborate, yes. And...
So carry on.
No, yes, you.
No, I'm just interested in whether you feel that, because Greece has very specific issues, and I say that speaking from a hard-top venue, or indoors, as we like to call it in the rest of the world.
That's a very
You should
nice
try
word.
Introducing that to Greece.
Why hardtop? Everybody remembers hardtop now.
I know. No, it's true. I will now think of hardtop at every single thing. I'll be going home to my hardtop home when we... But there is that feeling that there are Greek conditions which are specific. So there are issues around Greece, particularly, I think, the relatively slow take-up and slow introduction of VOD. Do you think if you were somewhere else, where, we've got here Scandinavia, for example, do you think if you were in a different country, there would have been greater success in the approach that you took?
I can't say 100%, but I think, yes, there would be chances in another market. The thing is, I feel that the problem is that the audience is not familiar with something like that. We need to train the audience for something. So, okay, I don't know if it sounds innovative to you, but for us, it was an innovative idea. So, we need to train the audience, especially the audience of the art house films, because they are older, they are not so familiar with the new technologies. They were familiar because during the pandemic, everybody was using Netflix or other platforms. In Greece, Netflix, nothing else. No. Okay, and another a Greek VOD platform, again, for a niche audience. But again, we're infants in that field. We need training.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about, over recent years, about distributors being publishers, but audience trainers, I quite like that as well. Because that is a big part of your job. I mean, you're trying to get people to accept an idea of something that they perhaps don't know they want to watch. And you're constantly trying to build that atmosphere. I just because we're going to move on to Esther, but is there anything that you did, because you talked about the things that didn't work, is there anything that you think that you learned during that period that, without the pandemic there now, when you look forward, you think, well, we'll integrate some of that into what we do in the future? Or is it just, as you put in your last slide, that it just has helped you think about adaptation more?
Adaptation and innovation, that's what we need to do. And to turn to the digital campaign mostly, because I'm a marketing person, and in Greece, we used to use the traditional mediums mostly, because yes, still TV is very strong, so most of our campaigns are on TV and online, of course. But now that the consumers and the audience habits has changed, digital is very important in order to promote your films in general.
And maybe that's where the changes come. Maybe the way that audiences are interacting with marketing campaigns is what I think you're suggesting maybe has changed, and maybe some of that adaptation that was necessary during the pandemic has perhaps pushed you more towards the integration of more of that online campaigning in future releases.
Yes, that's true. And the positive thing is that the feedback that we had, even from these few people who went to buy tickets, online tickets, and their online virtual seats, was really positive and really good. They really liked the idea.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, I think we ended there on what I think we should always end these things on, which is the positive, negative. There is no such thing as a positive, because things are going to change all the time, but I didn't think that, there were things that didn't work, but you're constantly about learning lessons from those, and I thought you did that really well. So another round of applause, I think, for Christina.
Okay, I'm Esther Coleman, I'm from CNR Films. We're based in the Benelux, a distribution company, and we have quite a different situation, because we started in the lockdown with quite a developed VOD market as well, and we already built up a really big catalog as well in this. So I'll start with, I'm working for the marketing company, and my task during the lockdown was also to grow online more, because that's our key. Create your own audience, and it's like we call it organic P&A. If we can find our own audience by our own channels ourselves, for the big films we can build it up with campaigns, but for the small art houses we can find them through our own build-up audience. So I start with some numbers. Of course, we had 2 lockdowns as well, in total 10 months. Theatrical went down 25%, like by a little bit like that. The overall VOD and TV market went 50% more. The PVOD market 3 to 4 times more. I'll tell you more about that later. And the VOD market doubled, and the art house SWAT market also tripled. So we had, like, when the lockdown started, we were in panic, and then we thought, like, okay, but this is a chance to do something we always wanted to do more, and to invest more online, and also in watching film on other ways. This was I'll show you, we call it the CNR Club. It's an invention of my boss, Mark. And we really grew during the lockdowns. We really grew because everybody was online, and this was an opportunity for us to build up our CNR Club. I'll go to the next level. Yes. I give you some examples. we bought more straight to VOD films during the lockdown as well. More than normal, like 20 in a year, and this is like the top 6 of the ones who did very well. 2 of them were actually ones who were supposed to have theatrical release, but because of the lockdowns and the closing of the cinemas, they went straight away to VOD, which we had a profit from because they were strong titles actually. But next to it, we had a we have 700 titles on all platforms, 700 films. And we had profit from one thing. In 2019, we had a really good theatrical year, exceptional good, with really good releases. Those releases, theatrical in 2019, went on 2020 on the platforms, which really helped us to create more awareness as well. So what did we do to grow? I can tell you some examples, but first we started to change our, we always work with the marketing mainly on the theatrical releases. And VOD was also a little bit part of it, but we did it next to it. Now suddenly we had to focus on it, so we had the chance and the challenge to change some things. And one was we have to be more and more visible online. So what we created is, I used to work for a publisher as well, for magazines. We created editorial more way of working. So doing the online channels was not in the marketing meeting anymore, but we had our own meeting and just focused on that one. We created like, we started to do, what do you like to do for making content? One started to learn video making and editing. And so that's how we learned new skills to high up our content actually. And we had like, in that way, lots of possibilities to do so, because actually we were very busy. We thought like we have nothing to do anymore, and during the lockdowns I never worked so hard. First of changing everything because of the changing release days, and then suddenly we had to cope with releases who were a little bit different, and we had little bit different ways to do so. So we focused more on the VOD marketing. We created a different approach to work on it, so really an editorial approach. We created more own content next to the publicity, more materials we got anyway. And we did, like example, a nice example is like we did a campaign, it's a little bit the same like you, but then only us. Where do you see our films online? Because that was also, we had to educate the audience. They love art house films, but they didn't know exactly where to find our films online. So we did a little campaign with that, which helped on one way. On the other way, we also found out if you communicate too many titles, it doesn't work. Because straight away, when the lockdown started, we were buying in online campaigns a lot, which was really cheap in the beginning. But everybody was online, so it was really efficient. But we find out when we bundle some films together in one campaign, it didn't work. We still have to address our audience with one movie, actually. But while there are some art house films who just have the same kind of audience, like the art house target audience is kind of like, yeah, have the same profile. And then, so online marketing was a really important tool for us. And we started straight away, we were not afraid. And that helped really a lot. At that time, we grew so fast because we didn't wait what was going to happen, we just did it. And that really worked out very well, actually. The other angle is also that the press, the Dutch press, which was more focused on the theatrical releases always, was now more willing to write or to do things about VOD releases as well. So we could combine that much better. So even when the cinemas got open, we could make combinations with them. We did joint promotions with them. We did partnerships with them, and we could offer them both. Sometimes we combined, one movie went in the cinemas and the other one just went on VOD, like for Almodovar by example, we had the whole catalog of Almodovar on our own channel, and we could combine that with the release of his new film. So that's, even with the media, we got more angles to work with, and we got closer collaborations with movie titles before we couldn't get. So that was kind of a good thing. And we worked also close. We have, like in Holland, the VOD platforms. We have one thing, what was really nice during the breakdown. In Holland, we have a theatrical pass. It's called Cineville. Those are for art house lovers. And you pay like 20 euros a month. And you can see as much movies as you like in the cinemas, in the art houses. And when the cinemas were closed, they started Cineville Vitamine. And they started to offer online movies as well, which was great, because they are a core audience of our movies. So we did some partnerships with them as well. So that's how we could find our audience back again online and learn them. You can see the film online, the same kind of movies you can see in the theaters as well. We have another one, and that's Pickle. And Pickle is already a VOD platform which released day and date with some art house releases, mostly the more smaller ones. The art house film theaters are connected to Pickle. You can see the film in the theater, but if you don't want to go, or you're lazy or whatever, you can see it at home with Pickle, and you just choose the art house you want to see the movie. So you support the art house with that way as well. So we had them as a partner as well. And as you could see earlier, I went too fast with the numbers, I'm sorry. But the top 3 of our revenues were Pickle and Cineville. They really, really took care of that we could find our art houses audience again back on the online part. And the second partner we really worked with was a totally other league, was Pathé. What we did with them was we made exclusivity deals. We gave them a couple of weeks prior to the others to release the film, to show the film, which in exchange we got campaigns, we got promotion for them. So in that way we could profit for them, their really broad channel, and bring us an audience we didn't have before. And with our online campaigns, we could lure the audience in to know us better. And that's also, we come with the last point. Maybe I go too fast, I'm sorry, but we focus also on the B2C. We wanted to grow already in the B2C. We wanted to make Cinear more as an authority, as a connoisseur of movies, and if you see as a Cinear films, you know this is chosen well. So in that way, we were already like building up to launch our Cinear Presents at the Amazon Prime channel, which is great because Amazon Prime is very big, but then we had our own art house channel on that. So, and then the first time it was like really using our name. So that was our step into, reaching the audience directly with our films. Simultaneously, I never can pronounce that word. But on the same time, it's better, we released also our director's collection, which you see by eyelet straight away, all the films of our important directors online on our site. And we didn't release it straight away to sell more movies, but even more to make more awareness of our directors we're releasing. There's more to see, you can see it there. And actually, we had help from our editorial skills we learned, but in that way, we were writing biographies, we were making videos, we made everything to give the audience some kind of feeling than only like that this is the movie, this is about, and it's directed by that one. So with that thing, and remember there's also like the SWAT channels, I forgot those one, for art houses, they grew bigger as well during the lockdowns, gave us actually the opportunity to grow. And now the cinemas are open again. We were afraid the audience, would stay back or wouldn't come back. But it showed we can have both, and it can strengthen each other. That's my point.
Fantastic. I have to admit, when you're behind that thing in these lights, I feel like I'm underwater. And so look, there's a whole load of amazing things that come out of that. One thing straight away is that the point that I think both of you have made is that integrated marketing campaigns, it's not all one thing or the other. You're talking about marketing campaigns that involve newspaper critics and at the same time involve cinemas and VOD. This is not a world of replacement. It's a world of integration, which I think came across really strongly. There was a couple of points I just thought would be interesting to pick up. One is there been a demographic change during this period? I mean, is this an era, during the pandemic, did a lot of older people who may have been your core art house audience begin to shift over? And how did that affect your campaign?
Yes, of course, it did change. And that's also with help with Pickle, my example, because they had that audience already and they couldn't go to the cinemas anymore. So the theaters itself started to promote. We worked with them together as well. More theaters joined Pickle, and they know their audience as best. They know their audience, they're older and things like that. So with their channels and with their promotions, they could reach that audience, for sure, yeah.
But you don't see that as any more of a threat, because it's the art house audience moving online.
We don't see it as a threat at all, actually. I have to be honest, every new development, I'm going for a long time already in distribution, so I learned, even if things go worse, you can make something out of it. There comes something out of it. And this is not a threat. And I strongly believe the two can be together. Yeah. And it showed the two can be together. Because after the cinemas went open, it's not that the VOD went like this. Not at all.
No, and I think that's a really interesting point that's come up from both of you. A couple of other things, just quickly. Straight to VOD is an interesting thing, because straight to DVD obviously had a reputation that that's where you put your crap.
Yeah.
But straight to VOD seems to be a different thing. It seems to be building a different kind of momentum. I wonder, I mean, your job, you go to a festival like this and you're looking at something and thinking that could be a theatrical hit. That's how your business works. Are you now looking at things, are you building a sixth sense of something that would work on VOD? Is this a new skill?
It is a new skill, but it was a skill done during the lockdown. But we bought strong titles, we were perfectly for VOD. Theatrical will be the main focus, but this worked out very well. So if there's a title, we think, and it's not what used to be on Distributor will be the bad titles. No, still some titles are better online. And you find your audience online, they won't go to the cinema for it, but they will see it at home. And because also they consumed more at home now. So yes, for sure. Yeah. Yeah,
it's a really interesting notion that straight to VOD may be some kind of genre change. Maybe that's where new talent comes through.
Yeah.
Just finally, just because I think you've presented it really well on that slide there. Distributors tend not to be customer-facing brands.
No.
And yet, from the B2B point of view, I mean, I can think of a number of brands that have always been for cinemas and for others. They're quality marks. They are people that you trust, and Cinear would certainly be in that kind of list. Is there something in this, the distributor, the name, the becoming the front end, all of that curatorial skill you have, all of those taste-making skills? Is this something you think could become a very big thing where Cinear presents, the name going forward? Is that something you could see as a trend moving forward?
Yeah, I don't think it's a main trend, but it's a little bit like that's how it goes. You have to be present as well. And I think it's also, we had just had it about Netflix. You can't find our movies, you can't find any movie quickly on Netflix. I'm scrolling like hell always to find a movie I want to see. So this is a way to point out with the whole, it's more to show who we are. And I don't think you can neglect it anymore. You just have to do it. You just have to go on. It's part of it. It's part of our, the the market is changing.
Yeah.
Because we're like curators. You know, if you think like you see a movie and you think like, oh, it's from the Cineart, so it will be a good one. That side.
Yeah, it's interesting that's been in the industry, and then maybe it's becoming something that's customer facing. But
Yeah.
there's some really interesting, and the contrast, I think, and the similarities with the Greek market, I think, have really added to this. But
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to actually Pietro, if I can, because you're again, I think your company is one which is already thinking in terms of that integration. It was kind of built on that integration in Aerofilm. As cinema owners and as VOD owners, they've got so many different elements to the business. So maybe you could run us through your pandemic lessons.
So I would like to speak specifically about two films and two cases in which we used something we called mixed releases. We used a VOD platform, which is our own, and then a theatrical release. But I'm going to start a little bit with little facts about Czech Republic. Our market is very small, and even before pandemic, about 7 films weekly came to theaters. So we had to make a really huge effort to get people to see our films, and that is something that our films are very good at. They are able to make a huge event from almost every film. So. And of course, as you see, we have about 800 single-screen cinemas, but not all of them work all the time. So some of them are only occasional, and some of them work only during the summer. And of course, we have a lot of online streaming platforms, the global ones that everyone knows, and some domestic ones. I think the biggest one is Aerovod, which is ours. We have the films which focus on documentaries, and almost every TV channel in Czech Republic has its own streaming platform. So before the pandemic, it was the best year for Czech cinema. We have the biggest number of admissions, and as you see, the highest grossing film was Czech rom-com, which is usual. Usually Czech lifestyle comedies are the highest grossing movies. During the pandemic, we closed cinemas for 2 periods of times. First was between March and May 2020, and the second was from October last year to May this year. And now the cinemas opened in May, and at the beginning on the 50% capacity, and with no refreshments, which meant that only single-screen cinemas opened. It wasn't interested for multiplexes that stayed closed for almost a month, because refreshments are about 50% of their income. So it was really good for us. So a little bit about Aerofilms. We started in 2006. It was a joint initiative of 2 Prague cinemas that decided that they want to bring films that they like to Czech Republic. We brought about 200 films, which are very carefully curated and chosen. And in 2013, we started our own VOD platform, which is Aerovod. It is very popular in Czech Republic. Of course, we don't have the same subscribers as Netflix or HBO Go does, but it is a love brand, and we know that people really understand our choice, and they go there because they are sure they can find something good easily, and not, as been said, they don't have to go through a lot of ballast. And actually, I wanted to say that last year was, ironically, our film's best year, because we distributed the Czech documentary of Síti. It's called, translation is called In the Net. It was about predators who look for young girls online, and it was really a huge hit, and it opened a really huge discussion about safety online and what the children do online. So last year was horrible in some way, but for Aerofilms it was a huge success. So about our activities during pandemic, we had a similar idea. We opened a platform which was called My Kino Online, My Cinema Online, and we tried to simulate the cinema experience. So we also sold tickets to the screening. We also cooperated with cinemas, and if the audience bought ticket through their register, registering system, the part of the income stayed with the cinema. So it was the way to support your local cinema or your favorite cinema. And we used it to do events. For example, we invited directors to give introduction to their films. It was possible to have a discussion with the director after film. We allowed the audience to instant messaging each other so they can discuss film with each other, like they usually do after film when they see it in theaters. And we also made some special events that we invited Czech directors, and they just played parts of their movie, and they just told stories about how it was shot, like funny stories from behind the scenes. Then we opened our own car cinema. So because car cinemas were allowed during the lockdown, so we operated our own, and we also put strong focus on our VOD platform. Of course, a lot of films went straight to it, and we bought a lot of films that were meant only for Aerovod, but we also used it for our theatrical releases, and specifically in these two cases, it was Bad Luck Banging or Loony Porn by Radu Jude and Slovak drama The Servants. So The Servants, it wasn't such a big success, and it wasn't such a big release. We just screened it on Aerovod for 2 weeks, and we made its opening on My Cinema Live. And the good thing was that it got really huge press when it went to Aerovod for a limited period of time, and then it was still very well known when it went to the cinemas. But it's a very small movie, so we didn't have really huge expectations, but it met them, and so we take it as a success. But when it comes to the film by Radu Jude, it won Golden Bear at Berlinale, and one of the producing companies is Czech company, so we see it partly as a Czech movie. So it got a really huge attention when it won. So it really got like 3 or 5 huge press coverages in Czech Republic. First one was when it won Berlinale. The second one was when we also show it on VOD Aerovod as a premium VOD, so you could pay a little bit more money to see it for a limited period of time. So everyone wrote about it, and then it went straight to cinema, again for a limited period of time, only for previews for 2 weeks. Then we had to hide it because it was going to be screened at Karlovy Vary Film Festival, so there was supposed to be a gap before that. So it was screened again there. Radu Jude came, so again it got really huge coverage. And it entered officially cinemas on the 2nd of September, and people are still coming to see it. So at this moment, it is our second most successful film after Annette. Of course, so we are still waiting to get to the numbers that we are used to have, but we see it as a big success.
Okay, a quick round of applause there, I think, while I get some mask off. So for Aerofilm, I mean, Caught in the Net is actually, if you haven't looked at that, I mean, that's a kind of wonderful example of a film that was really created through Aerofilm's integrated kind of approach. Did the pandemic change anything in the strategy for these films, or was that something that was already part of the kind of Aerofilm's culture before the pandemic?
I think that Aerofilms are very agile. They are not passive, and they always try to find new ways how to show films to the audience. For example, we had a really great. It's not connected with VOD, but we had a really great success with Climax. When we invited the director, we screened it in all our affiliated cinemas in Prague at the same time, and then we had an after party in famous Prague techno club where Gaspar Noé was present, and so all the cinemas were sold out like 2 weeks before the screening, and it was a great way how to communicate the film among the target group. So we are very agile and we do a lot of stuff and we experiment a lot. And people in our films are really invested themselves, so they don't mind put Maradona dresses and at Karlovy Film Festival to promote Maradona.
Yeah, so the integration of a big experience,
yes.
The experiential and the online, I think that balance is there. And I guess the pandemic kind of forced you to do more of those things, perhaps, than you might have done. I'm just interested in the PVOD, you know, the whole idea of premium VOD. Did you think there is a sense now of what works and what doesn't work in terms of premium VODs? Is that a skill we're learning?
Actually, we noticed that the PVOD may not have bad effect on the admissions in cinema, because the Radu Jude film earned quite a lot of money. Even it was possible to see it for 2 weeks on PVOD. So we think that at this moment we take it as an argument when we negotiate with cinemas, that we don't have to keep such a big gap between showing the film in cinema or in theater and then putting it on VOD.
And how do cinemas, how are they thinking about that? Because it's not...
That is something we are we are still figuring out. But of course, multiplexes have their own rules, and they don't want to. They want to change the waiting period. But I think our affiliated cinemas are more open to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We're talking about agility and flexibility here. It's there may be, we're at a time of experimentation. It may be that certain films work well that way, certain films are damaged that way. And it feels like Aerofilm, everyone is thinking it's not all one thing or all the other thing. This is a period of learning.
Actually, we think that our robot is going to be great for several our titles that we just introduced to cinemas. So these are like small documentary films that people usually don't want to see in theaters because they want to see something great, something that will amaze them. So we kind of expect that these films are going to have like second life on VOD.
Okay, and just for the record, there are documentaries that can excite you in cinemas. I've seen some of those, but I know what you mean.
I mean specifically to very small films.
I know exactly what you mean. I think it's, I think because we're going to move on to Emily, but I think what you've pointed to here is that's integration in practice. But you control, Aerofilm has taken up different parts of the value chain, so it has perhaps a different approach. But the experimentation seems to be paying off in ways that I think when we move forward. That there are positive lessons rather than negatives. And as you say, there's some people you're going to need to negotiate with. The negotiation with the cinemas is perhaps still something of an issue that we will discover more about, no doubt, in the coming months. So thanks again, Peter.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Emily, and I'm from Triadfilm in Sweden. And I'm going to jump right ahead to my case. The thing is, in Sweden, cinemas haven't been closed. Well, it's been different during the pandemic with restrictions, of course. But during the whole time, some cinemas have kept open, which has, for us, been good. We've been working like normal, almost, but pushing some titles ahead. But what happened was we had a premiere planned for the film Greta, which was a big domestic title that we felt we couldn't move. So when the date arrived, there were allowed 50 people per screenings in the cinema. And still at this time, almost every cinema had kept open. But so we were planning a big event. Am I going up? Yeah, thank you. So we were still planning big events, having screen talks and guests on stage, and every cinema that had booked the film could take part of this screen talk via YouTube. But as we got closer to this date, the major cinema chain in Sweden called Filmstaden, they have a little bit more than 264 screens. They decided to close, and what happened then was that the audience expected that every cinema would close, so the small cinemas really started to struggle because they were still open, but people didn't think so. So we didn't want to move this premiere, so we had to think around and what we could do. So it was all digital. We were allowed to have 50 people in the cinema at this screening, but the panel was all digital, and the cinemas that were still open, those were 100 screens all over the country. So there were quite a lot. They screened this Q&A and the film. But what we also knew was that we opened the film on Friday, and on Monday the restrictions were going to be 8 persons per screening. And then, of course, we suspected that many cinemas weren't able to have the screens open, the cinemas open. So we were forced to quickly try to come up with ideas how we could work. And so the first thing we wanted to do was to keep it exclusive for cinemas the first week. And there were, after all, 100 screens booked. But then we do have a VOD platform called Triad Play. We quickly built, and all this was done manual. We didn't have any automation for anything. We wanted the cinemas that had booked the film, some of them were still open, some were not. They had already started campaigns through their audiences. So we made, on our platform, you could buy the screening for a sum of 139 crowns, and then you could also buy slightly more expensive, about €2 more expensive, and then choose your cinema of choice, and that price would be, that went to the cinema, was the same as the ticket price. So for us, it was not an economical good thing to do, but we were thinking that we really wanted to support the cinemas that had booked this film. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the next is. Well, here you see what we built is Support Your Cinema, but also we wanted to try something more, so we created a gift voucher. So you could still support your own cinema of choice, but you didn't have to do it at this time. And we were also lucky because Gothenburg's film festival had tried something similar before. So the audience and the cinemas were a bit, they knew about this, so we could really start over a weekend. And all the 100 cinemas that had booked did use this, and all got not a lot of cash, but some. Yeah. So go down. We continued to try after Greta a gift card on our VOD platform, and you could also here support your cinema of choice. But all this, it was really done really fast. Everything was done manual, was a lot of work. We haven't really evaluated the gain for us as a company, but yeah, we're going to continue.
Yeah, so a lot of energy obviously goes in all of you, actually. The integration with the cinema, the use of that cinema brand seems to be fundamental to all of the approaches that you take. Presumably that's because theatrical remains the best in terms of money and in terms of returns. That's still, the theatrical market is still the most transparent and highest earning. That presumably is a big part of your thinking in supporting those cinemas, that you need them to survive this pandemic. That seems to be a heavy motivation.
Yes, it was, and it was also a really good opportunity to start to work with the cinemas in a different way. But yeah.
And did you see any change of thinking from the cinemas? Because we talk about changes here, about the way distributors are working with other people, but did you sense that during the pandemic that support is something which is perhaps changing opinions within the cinema community?
Well, what we could see were the cinemas, of course, they had the opportunity to both be closed and open at the same time, which was really great. They knew the audience, they had a communication with the audience, so now they could, now they had something they could offer, but you didn't have to use at this time. And I think that's something that
and I guess part of the Swedish issue is also that you have a virtual monopoly of, the biggest player is really, really big in Sweden.
And when they left the market, all these small cinemas, and not so small in the bigger cities like Stockholm and Gothenburg that were still open, they moved up a bit, which was a great opportunity for them.
Yeah, there's one other interesting element to that, which is we're talking about money and so on, but the added value element that you're putting in here, the Q&As, some of the special screenings, it still feels to me like we haven't quite reached the stage of differential pricing where we're looking at value in terms of changed pricing structures. So we'll pay more for certain things and less for others. It still feels like quite a monolithic market where we're still, audience expectations still seems to be, even when you get more stuff, you don't have to pay for it. It feels like that's an era still to come of that differential pricing.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be really difficult because we are now that people are expecting more for the same amount of money. And how we're going to change that.
Yeah, I guess that's the audience training thing again, is how do you train audiences to have, because, what buying an online and offline with Greta must be about 50 now. How old? She seems to have been around forever. But there is that feeling that of the you're adding more value in all the time, but that value isn't turning into money. I'm sure there's something there that no doubt some people in the audience maybe have in mind. So thanks, Emily. We have got some other things that we can talk about, but is there anything specific? Does anyone in the audience want to share some experience or have any questions that they would like to ask? We can wait for the mic. I think there's one on its way.
Gardner from Glasgow Film. Because I also run a distribution company and a cinema, the point about working with cinemas is really important because cinemas really do want to work with distribution in terms of these small films. We also have our own Glasgow Film at Home player, and that's worked very successfully because cinemas have the marketing and know-how about their audiences, which perhaps distributors don't use. And then we, for example, for Glasgow Film Festival, had over 41,000 views on our player because we were in complete lockdown, and that translated to 12,000 sign-ups in a week on our platform, and that's worked really successfully. And we shared 50% of all our profits with the filmmakers and or distributors and or sales agents. So working with cinemas, I think, is the key.
Yeah, Alison, just while you're there, because that's an interesting experience from the exhibitor side. A lot of it's about the brand. So just from the Glasgow point of view, I remember when you began that whole process of bringing in that online stuff. How much is this the cinema brand exerting itself over VOD?
So essentially, we've been working a long time with VOD since 2012 and our own player. So I think it's really important that you are not our experience is you're not cannibalizing the cinema audience. People do still want to go to the cinema. So we use the video on demand platform to extend the life of a film that we maybe can't do in terms of the program itself in the cinema. So we might show something a week in the cinema, but then have it online for 4 further weeks, for example, because then people think, oh, I forgot that film's there, but it's on demand. And also because for us, Scotland is a geographically difficult country, so there's not cinemas in all places, so our brand and our cinema reaches out to the whole country, and I think that's probably a lot of cases in the smaller countries in terms of geographically difficult countries to access. And also access itself. We're champions of equality, diversity and inclusion, and it's really important that people who cannot get to the cinema can also participate in film culture online.
Yeah, I think that last point is a particularly big deal. Maybe we can come to you, Esther, on this, because I think there's 2 elements, but that last one, there's benefits in extending the audience, that actually there are, the video on demand promise is to reach people that you wouldn't reach other ways. Is that something you can build into a strategy, or is that a bit of a myth? I mean, how does that work for you?
I think you can build it in as a strategy. I think you can use it as well. Because you're always trying, you have a core, but you're always trying to find, with every movie release, whatever you have, you're trying to find, again, your audience. And every movie has its angles and things, and sometimes the target group is more difficult than the other releases, actually. So you for sure can use it as well, because some are find better online and some are find better in the cinemas. So if you have both, you can retarget your movie whatever you want. Yeah,
yeah. I think the concern has been in research as well is that it's the same audience effectively. It doesn't necessarily cannibalize, because it might be that they go more than once, but actually people who aren't near art house cinemas this isn't necessarily reaching them. So, I mean, the Netherlands is different than Scotland. You're all next door neighbours in the Netherlands, but that geographical issue isn't necessarily quite the same. But there is, that culture of trying to extend beyond people who would want, who know they love art house film already is difficult.
No, it's not difficult. It's challenging, maybe, sometimes. But I still think it's both. It's there. How do I explain it? I'm getting a little bit like. It's not difficult. You have to. I think it will become more and more a part of it, and it won't eat each other. It will help each other. And if you think of, there will come an audience who will do both, which will be a really good core audience for us, for sure.
Yeah, and Christine, is coming to you. I mean, what you're saying, I mean, that's a very distributor answer, which is, it's not difficult, that's what we do. But you have to, you're trying to work out a mechanism for doing it. Yeah. Christine, I mean, presumably a lot of your audience, even when you're doing stuff online, is very much around Athens. I mean, maybe, I don't know, with Thessalonica as well. Do you get any sense of an extension of the market into different people?
Different, yes, of course, because do you know what's the average attendance of cinemas in Greece?
Is that hard top or outdoors?
Both.
12.
12? What's 12? No, the average percentage of cinema attendance in Greece is 0.8. So, yes, there is there are possibilities to widen the audience that goes to the cinema. And of course, there's audience that is using the digital platforms. Again, the one digital platform that we have, at least, who can also go to the cinema. So yes, there is an audience out there who we need, again, I will use the same word, train and educate to go to the cinemas or try the innovative ways of watching a film.
Yeah, I guess what I'm interested in is, because all of you, one way or another, use the cinema brands in order to reach the cinema audiences, and maybe that suggests that you see a core audience around that cinema audience, whereas it may be more difficult. Those brands of an Athens cinema may have little resonance down on the coast somewhere, further. I was going to give you some names of Greek places. Now I've realized.
Please do that. Please do that.
Yeah, it's in Skiathos.
Okay.
But it's different there. Those brands, presumably, it's more difficult to even online to get outside of the same core audience.
I really don't understand what the point of your question.
Yeah, I'm saying that the cinema audience, you've got virtual cinemas, so you have the Athens Odeon is got a resonance in Athens.
It's not only the Athens audience.
Yeah.
Of course, the Athens audience is bigger and wider than the rest of Greece, because the total population is 10 million, and in Athens lives, the 5 million. So, it becomes obvious that the biggest audience is in Athens.
Yeah.
But we are targeting the cinema goers mostly because we will use them as ambassadors in a way. They are our ambassadors and are the first who are going to try the new ways that we are going to find in order to watch the films. Why are you doing that? Maybe
No.
you have something in
I
your
think you're
mind.
telling me it's kind of, what the hell are you talking about, man? It's this is our plan. We're already on this thing. So you're saying that cinemas give you a certain amount of resonance within a certain group, but your strategy is broader than that already.
Yes, of course. And our campaigns also include whole
Okay.
Greece, not only Athens. Greece is not only Athens.
You've got to remember, I'm from a tiny island. I'm just
You're from a
a
tiny
man
island,
over here.
yes.
I don't know what I'm talking about. So
And
I understand what you're
also,
saying.
we have open-air cinemas in the island, so in the summer, the audience becomes bigger and bigger.
Okay, so you're way ahead of me, is what we're saying, and I understand exactly the point. So all of you are working with cinemas, but how far that can broaden is something which the pandemic hasn't necessarily shown us, but that's a long-term strategy. I think I got away with it. Has anyone else got a point or a question or their own experiences to share here? Good, because we've only got a few minutes left, and I think there's a hell of a lot in there. I just wanted to I think we've got a lot of points here already. I'm just trying to understand still the skills. We talked a lot about you've got to learn new skills. And I'm just trying to understand what those new skills are that you're going to have to learn as distributors, because I can see that that there's a big change. You're going to integrate those marketing campaigns. What's missing? Elżbieta, what have you got? What are you learning, having to learn or teach within your company all of the time that actually will help you in this changed world we're heading towards?
So I think the most important thing is that putting the film on VOD may not damage it in cinemas, that it can work together, and we use to VOD actually to make buzz around the films. So it can be joint cooperation, and cinemas probably don't have reasons to be afraid of VOD or take it as a competition. I think it was for us the biggest thing that we learn. And actually at the moment, because theatrical releases are also the most important thing we do and our biggest income. So at the moment we are trying to get people to cinemas more than we are thinking about VOD. So.
Okay, so there may be some negotiating skills in there in some ways. So you can have an idea about what works, but you've still got to sell that to your partners in this kind of work? And just the same question, Emily. Is there when you look at your business, what is it you will have to learn in order to reach the next stage?
Well, we want to continue to be digital, but also what we see now is that we have to learn the audience to not only be digital, so teaching them to go back to the cinema. Because now they take for granted that, oh, okay, so now we're digital, so where can I see this new movie that you open on Friday? No, you have to go to the cinema. What?
So this is audience training and cinema training, seems to be two of the things. And we'll just finish with you, and then we'll kind of round the thing up. Esther, because you talked about the skills thing, and some of these, in fact, all of your businesses, I think, are relatively new. I mean, Feel Good's, 2008 or so when it kind of came in?
10 years.
10 years. So
But it's, the owner of Feel Good is really experienced, so she had another company before.
Yeah,
So
but
it's a new company,
yeah.
but with a very experienced head.
Yeah, I can see that, and it arose from the circumstances of that time as well. But just from a Cinea point of view, they've obviously been through quite a lot of different changes over quite a few years. You mentioned skills, you mentioned the change of atmosphere and approach and some of the things that would need to be learned. Maybe just to finish off that, what is it? What are those skills that you think you're going to need to change? You can take your mask off for this bit.
Oh, yes, of course, sorry. The skills I think we need to change is, in a way, to keep on adapting and being very flexible and being very aware about the changes, in a way. So it's not only, you have to look further than only the market or the situation you're used to. And you just have to be able, sometimes you can sit on a ship and you work on it, and we're kind of big and we do a lot of releases, and you do a release and you release and release, but you have to stop sometimes and just watch further and just have a goal to go somewhere, which just is like creating our own audience, which is a thing which helped us as well. And I think we have to keep on doing that because there will always coming something.
Yeah, I think the way that you answer that question is pretty much says a lot about this, the kind of side of the business you're working in,
yeah.
Because what you're all saying is, yeah, we adapt. That's what we do, and that goes right to what we were talking about at the beginning. You take the circumstances as they are. You've got a film to get through. I did take from you though that sometimes putting your head up. And looking around and seeing those changes can be very difficult when you're so committed to the specifics and the day-to-day. And I think all of you, it's clear, have got, all your companies are committed to long-term strategies, but tactics is still necessary from day to day to day. And
you have to still keep on flexible in that one.
Yeah.
To adapt and to do it in a quick time.
Yeah.
Because the world is going faster, so you have to. So you can't wait and say, let's see what happens, and then. So yes, you have to adapt, and you don't have to be afraid of it.
Yep, there we go. Don't be afraid. That's a good way to finish that point. So just the points that I think were takeaways from all of this. One I think is very clear is that what came out of the pandemic tactically was the necessity to integrate the different elements of that marketing. But what really changed was that cinema was out of the equation for a while. But actually, it doesn't seem that particularly knocked you off your stride. It just meant that you had to adapt. But I think what you're all saying is, yeah, but we have adaptable release strategies all the time. The balance of that integration changes sometimes from film to film, but actually using partnering with the cinemas, working with VOD channels, whatever, that's just part of the way that you have to think moving forward. I would suspect from what you're all saying is that the demographics may have changed in the pandemic, which I think you were saying, Esther, is quite significant. So there was a time when it was the demographics of people using VOD was all very young. But now it's become more and more part of the day-to-day culture of people who are in the core of what would be the art house cinema goer. But I think we heard from Alison's question in the audience as well. I think an integrated approach doesn't necessarily mean cannibalizing that audience. It may actually increase the engagement of that audience with the cinema that they love. But it feels still that reaching beyond those is the challenge that the whole industry has. So how you get out beyond those people who already know they want to see films is a challenge, which is why I do love this, and I will be using it every day of audience training. It seems to me quite a big thing. And that integrated training, that integrated marketing also seems to be about sharing brands. So using the brand of the cinema where that has the biggest resonance makes a lot of sense. I think I was being rightly attacked there as being someone who was perhaps being conservative about this, because that's a strategy for the longer term as well. There are opportunities in VOD that will require different, perhaps flexible thinking, but very interested in that idea that I think all of you use to an extent, which is you become more of the customer-facing brand. So that trust that's been built between distributor and business maybe can be extended into distributor and customer, because the skills of curation and the taste making is something that I think can go on. And then, of course, what we were hearing at the end that we learned is perhaps it's more of a cultural shift that I think, there probably has been a big cultural shift over 2 years in the way that you think about marketing campaigns. But what struck me with all of you is it was a kind of feeling that, that culture change is something we've done. We just accept that's part of what we do as a business. And it doesn't feel like a revolution. It feels like you see this as an evolution of the work that you already do, which, lest we forget, is still that bit that takes the talent and genius and culture that we all love. It's that connecting tissue with the audience that's so essential. And I came away feeling oddly optimistic that you were way ahead of where I was on that. So hopefully people in the audience would also have got a lot of their notes too. So thank you to the panel. And if I can say thank you to the interpreters, the festival, and of course to Europa Distribution. So thank you, everyone.